Yo, what's up guys, and welcome to a brand new video. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be going through Saturday's games and the games that happened overnight between Saturday and Sunday, and talk about who's a good, I guess, limited pickup, who's a good underdog pickup, and then who I'm going to be looking at potentially using in my teams next week. As always, if you guys are interested in signing up to SoRare, there is a referral link down below. Once winning 5 cards on the bidding market, you will get yourself a free tradable limited card. Don't overpay to get this free tradable limited card. It's only worth about £2 to £7, but it's a nice bonus nonetheless. On top of that, you do have to be 18 to play SoRare. It is real life money, and that real life money can easily be lost as well as being made. And finally, if you guys are interested in my take on any sort of players, feel free to just drop them down below in the comment section, and I'm more than happy to give you my 2 cents in terms of how good I think they'll be next week and what the chance of maybe them rising in price. So we start the investments off with a few Dundee players. We've got ourselves Mr. Charlie Adam, and we've also got ourselves, where we go, Mr. Jordan Marshall. Now, to start off, because they both play for the same team, we can cover this. Dundee are, pretty far last, I'm not going to lie. They are playing against, I guess, third of the relegation set. They are 10 points above, so we would expect them to go and win. But there is something interesting to look at, and that is they literally played against them 3 games ago. And, first matey went and pulled in a score of 49.5, and second matey went and pulled in a score of 72.5. He actually got subbed on in the 60th minute and got 2 assists, which is very, very impressive. Both cards coming in very cheap, £3.90 for Charlie Adam and £3.70 for Jordan Marshall. Both have a L, so this guy's got an L15 or 42, so not eligible for specialist, but eligible for underdog. Charlie Adam, again, sadly has 40.6, which means it goes into a 41, so I really actually kind of wanted to use this guy in my specialist, but sadly I can't. But usable in the underdog, not usable in the specialist. His L5 is coming in with a score of 61, and his L5 is coming in with a score of, I can't remember what it was, I think it was 56 he actually comes in with. So really, actually, I've got it on a calculator right here. He comes in, with a score of 56, so nice impressive score right there. Very cheap, not the most favourable matchups, so I'm not quite sure how it'll be investment-wise. I think it's, for your team at least, I don't think they'll be too bad. The nice thing with this guy as well, he doesn't actually fully rely on the clean sheet. Obviously not pulling in a clean sheet, I guess he got a good decisive, but he still would have got a score of around about 40... Can you work it out then? He would have got a score of 54 still there. So we've got another duo from a team, and that team being Freiburg. So we'll start off here with Maximilian Eggstein. So this guy's a midfielder. He's had some decent scores, got decisive in the last game, but other than that, his all-rounds have been really good as of recently, 20.8, 16.6 and 20.1, so some decent all-rounds right there. Right now his L5 is coming in at 51, which is decent. They go and play against Hoffenheim, and then they play against Union Berlin. As those matchups line up, they're both, both teams I'm pretty sure are, pretty even to Freiburg. Freiburg's slightly better than both of them. But I doubt there'd be much in terms of an extremely favourable matchup. But with the likes of Eggstein, he will be eligible for underdog, isn't eligible for the under 40 of specialist. Don't think he'll be eligible next week as well, because he's getting very, very close to his L15 being over 45. But yeah, not too bad for an 11 quid midfielder. And then we move on to a Gundam. Gundar's a bit of a weird one. Gundam has a L5 of 54. He is very decisive reliant, which is the problem. As in, his all-round right there is -4, but he got himself 2 decisives. His all-round there is -15, but he got himself got him a decisive. Minus all-round there is -3.3, but got a decisive. Interesting enough, the one game where he didn't score a goal, his all-round was pretty decent. Same with there. So what I presume they do is, I guess he plays, because they're stating he played left-back, but what I guess they do is they probably play him as an attacking wing-back / left mid. And if he's playing as a left mid / attacking wing-back, because his defensive all-rounds are going to be negatively impacted by that, I guess he has a dodgy score, but if he's playing actual left-back, then I guess his all-rounds aren't too bad. So the good thing with Gundam is he's actually looking likely to be eligible for the underdogs for 2 weeks in a row. The reason for that is right now his L15 is 40. The 37 has been replaced with a 60, but next game, as long as he pulls in a 60-70, it's not going to exceed the score right there because he's going to replace a 50. And likewise, the game after is going to be replacing a 60, so he can manage to get some high scores. So his eligibility might be actually for 3 weeks on Gundam, which is decent. The only problem with Gundam, again, is he's just a bit hit and miss if he's going to go and get himself a decisive or not. Also, his third game is against Leverkusen, which, again, I don't think is a very favourable matchup. If anything, they're higher than them. But that is Gunther with with his underdog and specialist review. So we get to another player, and that is Mr. Hyrule Bazaar. Now this guy has come in with a L5 at the moment of 52, which is decent. £3.50. Matchup is not very favourable. We have got ourselves 16th playing against 5th, so not a very favourable matchup. At the moment, his scores look amazing. Like, he's had some really, really good all-rounds here. 25, 31, 14, 10, the 2.5 and 9.9 aren't too amazing. But yeah, some really good all-round scores there. He does go and play 15th, and then that game is followed by playing... Who do they play? I think it's 17th, if I'm not wrong. I mean, the team he plays for is one of the bottom in the league, so I don't think there are many favourable matchups. He should only be eligible for 1 week. The reason for that is the score that is getting replaced next. So at the moment, he's already on quite a fine line of the L15, but the next score that's going to get replaced is 41, which means that if he goes and pulls in, I think, probably about 50, 60 odd, he will not be able to be eligible next week. But yeah, very nice cheap player there. Not a favourable matchup, but a cheap player, especially for, quite high all-around scores. Next one I get to is Rich Lord Enin. With Rich Lord Enin, he actually doesn't have a very impressive L5 of 46, but what he does do is he plays against bottom of the league. He hasn't had a very good, scoring rate. Bear in mind, he's literally been the starting striker for the last, probably like 8 games now. But they do play at bottom of the league, and as you can see, the average score against them is 68. So you might want to back yourself a goal against them. Problem with this guy is he won't be eligible if he does get a goal, because at the moment he's, again, on a very, very fine line. And the score that is getting replaced is the score of 42. So if he goes and gets a goal whatsoever, won't be eligible the following week. Only eligible for underdog. Once again, he has okay all rounds, but that wouldn't be anything getting you a prize, or a reward, sorry. But yeah, so quite reliant on decisives, but the thing going for him is they are playing bottom of the league. The team themselves aren't amazing, let's be completely honest. I mean, goals for them, how many have they scored? 23 all, Arsenal has literally scored more goals than them right there. But goals against them, 51. Like, they are, 44, it's not a crazy amount between the teams, but because they are playing bottom of the league and he is eligible, that is one of the matchups, one of the forward investments, again for 11 quid, you guys can take a bit of a gamble on. So a pretty interesting player that I've shown you in previous weeks, and that is Dejan Lajojevic. Now, a few things with this guy. At the moment, he's got a score of L5 or 57. Because he didn't have an amazing game last game against Armenian Byfield, which is a bit disappointing, bear in mind how low they are in the league. His score is actually going to go from a 57 to a 50, which isn't amazing, but if we actually go and look at his up-and-coming matchups, they're looking decent. So, first off, if people are buying cards off of statistics, this card would probably not rise much next week. But if people actually look into it a little bit deeper, there's a few really good things that go for him. So first off, his L15 is at 39.9, so he's eligible for the Specialist under 40, the Underdog under 45. Because it's under 40, he'll be eligible for the Specialist this week of under 40, the Underdog next week, and probably even the Underdog the week after. So, yeah, some nice favourable things going there, because, again, next week he'll be losing the DMP, and then the following week he'll be losing the 32. So, yeah, it should be good for at least Underdog next week, even if he goes and pulls himself a decent score. What else goes for him? The matchups, so obviously they are Clone, and Clone are coming in at 7th. The next matchup is very favourable against Augsburg. The following game is Wolfsburg, and then the following game to that is Stuttgart. So he's got himself 1, 2, 3 very, very nice favourable matchups, significantly lower than them in the league. So yeah, 3 really decent matchups. So I think this is more just one if you want to use players for against specialists this week and then maybe underdogs. In the next week, I think this card can be very good. Player has very, very favourable matchups, and yeah, so I'm just not too sure about him going from a 57 to a 50 and that affecting the demand in terms of an investment maybe. So we then move on to Kaisuka Taigawara. Yeah, that's definitely how it's said. So, not too bad. We're looking at a striker right here. He's had back-to-back 2 goals, 1 goal, 1 goal, so very, very good. all of his really high contribution has started ever since he started in the lineup. You can see all his previous scores are subs. Par why, even though he's had amazing recent scores, he's still eligible in the underdogs. Right now his score is 44.45, which means he's eligible this week. If he gets a goal, won't be eligible next week, so we're only looking at a player that's eligible for 1 week. They are playing against Gulmez, who actually they do back for conceding a lot of goals. Right now he plays for Santa Clara, so Santa Clara playing against Victoria SC. Again, they would be, I guess, more favourite due to the position in the league. But I don't think there's that much in. I think they're like 6 points ahead, so it's nothing. It'll be a nice close matchup. I can imagine it's a bit of a weird one because, for people who buy cards off of the statistics, 51 for a forward, it's not bad, but it's not overly amazing, especially for 20 quid. Is when you look into his recent form of 3, I guess his L3 as such is really, really good. Which is decent. Now, the next 2 games he has actually are very. I mean, this game's very unfavourable, but yeah, then he goes and plays against Maramito. So he basically plays this team, which is equal, this team that's equal, and then obviously Sporting that do dominate the league. So investment-wise, it would probably be okay. I'd probably pick up one for an investment, and I might even go and pick one up for a team. The only worry is he's guaranteed to not be eligible for underdog if he goes and gets a goal. So I probably would sell pre-game for anyone who's buying him for the, to use him in their team, but then basically whilst people still have him under an underdog eligibility. So now we're going to move on the way with the MLS, but I would be careful buying MLS players. The reason I'd be careful buying MLS players is because I'd be pretty confident they're going to go and remint MLS cards. This basically means if you know what's happening with the J League, if you see what's happening with the Argentinian League, the Peruvian League, they're releasing the new cards. When they release new cards, the old cards lose 5 XP, which is like the little percentage boost. And that can sometimes drop the players temporarily. Normally they do go and rebound. And the reason I think it will come is, one, where this normally happens, I think, like 5-6 weeks after the league started, which is the position we're in with the MLS. And 2, a lot of new MLS player faces have been added in the last few days. And as a result, I mean, if player faces are being added, and obviously the player faces are on the cards, and we would highly anticipate these new cards coming. So that could create a little bit of panic selling. So if you're buying as an investment and then they're going to get panic sold, even if you're buying them for your team and then they're going to get panic sold, obviously that's just something you need to bear in mind. So Adam Lankavist is coming here off the back of some decent goals. Well, basically off the back of getting some goals. He's got a score currently of 52, which isn't too bad. They do go and play Austin, who are the top of the Western Conference MLS League. And they are 7th. Obviously, it's still early days, but I mean, there is a 5-point difference between both of those teams. Yeah, as a pretty decent L5 score. Will only be eligible for underdogs. Will only be eligible this week because the DMPs, I believe, start running out, and the next score replaces 28, which means he, again, just won't be eligible unless he's putting really bad scores, and he won't be demanded for that anyway. But there is our first pickup, and that is Adam Lankavist, who is, again, playing top of the league, but has a nice little L5 of 52. So now underway with an Austin player, and obviously they've got a favourable matchup because they're playing against Houston. Heads up, don't buy a Houston defender and a Austin forward. But, yeah, the problem with this guy is he's running in that he's basically quite expensive, actually. He's coming in right now at about 30 quid, and 30 quid for a striker, it's a fair bit, especially when they don't have scores like Hadji did. But nonetheless, he pulls in a score of, 55, which isn't too bad. 55 with some great scores as of recently. Will only be eligible for underdog, only be eligible this week, because as soon as this week, if he does get himself a goal, his score will be too high to be underdogs. So 1 week of underdogs, no specialist on him. So yeah, for 40 quid, I'll be honest with you, I definitely wouldn't go anywhere near him. You definitely have to drop down to a previous price for me to want to buy him. And this crazy guy right here is going to buy him for 56. Again, you're obviously running the risk. Expensive players we've seen in previous weeks haven't been purchased as much as cheaper players because it's kind of the whole point of the underdog is that's a cheapo league. So something to bear in mind. Second to that is obviously if they are going releasing new cards, the more expensive cards we would imagine would be hit a little bit more in terms of high percentages than the cheap cards. We start off with some more MLS players. Now I'll be honest, I can't say I understand the MLS. Nashville, which are in the Western Conference, are about to go and play Philadelphia, who are the top of the Eastern Conference, but shows my understanding of the MLS. Well, so they're about to go and play each other. This team is, I'll be honest, far superior, has basically double the points, so not a favourable matchup, but statistics-wise, and a few other things are quite interesting about this guy. Right now he's coming in with an average of 53 for the last 4 games. There we go. Non-decisive dependent, which is decent. His score is also at the moment, sorry, his L15 is also, I think it's 50, it'll be either 41 or 42. He's about to go and lose the 53, the 50 and the 43, which means he actually might have underdog eligibility for the next 3 weeks, which is decent. No specialist eligibility on him, but yeah, say some really decent scores. Just sadly not favourable matchups. I mean, they're kind of like mid-table, so until they play someone like Houston and I think Montreal, I don't think they're actually, yeah, let's say the scores aren't too favourable, but the statistics don't work too badly for him. With the 53, and as I say, you should have some decent longevity for the next few weeks. I have a copy paste from the last guy, Alex Mule. So right now he's got himself an L5 of 54, which is decent. Eligible for the specialist this week, then should be eligible for underdog the following 2 weeks, which is decent. Matchup's obviously the same. Play against Philadelphia, top. Salt Lake, who aren't too bad, and then Houston is probably one of the more favourable matchups. His very high scores are decisive dependent, sadly. He does get some medium scores of 50s with no decisives. Didn't have a very good game last game. But yeah, again, a bit of a middle-of-the-road player. Once again, another player who comes in at a tenner. Some decent stats and some decent longevity, if you want to use them for your team. So that goes and wraps up the investments and players you could use for your underdog and specialist teams. The players that I think I might end up using, I could look at these Nashville duo here. It's quite nice to go and get a nice little stack. Charlie Adams I don't think looks too bad, especially if I wanted to go budget. Enon I think looks too much of a gamble for my liking. Ludwig, I quite like his longevity. I think this guy looks pretty good value for money for your team as well. So there's a few players I might go and use. I don't think there's anyone I'm 100% solid on using. Especially as I do quite like the MLS players, but I'm quite confident on a resupply, which would go and drop them and cause a little bit of panic. So I do also have Ramos. I actually completely, or Ramona, Sosa, sorry, completely forgot to go and throw this guy in the video. Comes out an average, I think, around about 62. He is eligible for underdog next week. I believe he should be eligible 2 weeks in a row, but obviously that's dependent on how good of a score. But the reason I haven't really put too much time in him, I'll be honest with you, he is 30 quid. His matchup isn't madly favourable, but there's only 2 games left of the season, and I don't think I'd want to hold a card post there being any games. So yeah, they might, if the team is eligible, maybe have some sort of like Sud-America Champions League or so on. But that is going to be it for the video. Hopefully it's helped you guys with, I don't know, scouting some players maybe as investments or even scouting players for your team. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.